What's going on, guys? This is Mike from Shallon's Finest Fisherman, and today we're just going to go over plugs in general, and no particular ones, just the ones that I use and what they do. Specifically, more will be like discussing metal lips and the varieties they come in, the different actions, the different purposes, different ways you can use some of them. See, I got my lures out here. So we got plenty. I'm just going to pick them up as I go, take a look at them, show you the applications. And from that point on, you have a better idea when you do shop for plugs on what you're looking for. So I'm going to start with a Danny plug. I guess that would be the most widely used style of metal lip. They generally swim on the top of the water. People like them because you can see when the bass hit it. Top water bites are always exciting, and there's certain spots too where you may want to definitely need them when you're in certain boulder fields or places where you got a lot of snags underneath. Out here in Staten Island, there's definitely quite a amount of places where top water, slightly subsurface is definitely a necessity to have in a lot of places. So I'm going to start with this guy right here. This is a Vinny's Customs Starbreaker X. This is pretty much, it's kind of a Danny plug. People have different ideas of what they do. There's usually two kinds. There's a kind that will literally just wiggle like this, and then there's a kind that will kind of roll, like flash the eyes, flash the stomach. This one has more of that action. What gives it that action is the placement of the eye is lower in the center, so that's going to keep it on the top, and this lip is not as defined as this one, which is also a diving version of the same plug, just a deeper diving. You could see the difference in lips. One is got it cut down, one's dig straight down. This one is going to scoop the water and dig it real quick, real deep. This one, because it's more flat, it's going to have that tighter action, but it will stay on top of the water. So when you're looking in a store for a metal lip, and then you want to know if it's going to be top water or dive, if you see one that pretty much comes straight out, almost closer to a 90-degree angle, rather than this is like a very, very slighter angle, this is going to be the diving one. This is going to be the top water one. When these I guess you call them Z-lips, depending on the way you bend them, make a tremendous difference on the diving style of the plug. Okay? Now, these are the same plugs. One's a diving, one's a not. All right? Then I have the giant version of this plug, which you could see is much bigger. I would say this would be something that you would throw an adult bunker around. I've never seen mullet in the Raritan, so I can't comment on those, on how the size of them are. But you could see he's a bulkier profile. Okay, these are the blurples. I would use these at night. Right here I have a same lure, parrot. I always recommend having a bright color and a dark color, whether it be white or black, green and purple. Now, what's the purpose of this one and this one? Now, you would think on a dark night to use a brighter color so the fish could see it. It's actually the opposite. If you think of the way light works, a dark color absorbs all the light that is reflected onto it. That is why it's dark. A lighter color reflects it. That is why it's light. Now, if you put on a green light like that you use at night. A lot of fishermen will use it. And you put that on these purple plugs. They look jet black. Like you wouldn't even think that they were purple. That would be the idea of like if you were colorblind, how would you see? You have to think of it in those terms. They don't see colors, they see shades, you know? So the darker shade is going to absorb the most light and this way be the bigger silhouette. So in a darker night, they're going to notice that more. This is probably going to be harder for them to see because it's reflecting the light off of it and maybe making not as dark of a silhouette. So you want to use these more on definitely if you're going to fish daytime, you're going to use this over this. And if you're fishing a full moon versus a new moon, which is the way I look at them, this is my new moon, this is my full moon. And, generally, the purples, the dark, they would say nighttime colors, but on a full moon, I will reach for a lighter color plug, okay? Now, these are big. They kind of have the same type of lip as the top water one. These give a nice top water action. I actually asked these to be specifically designed for that reason. I wanted a big, heavy-duty top water plug that could resemble Giant Bunker. And also, when the peanuts are around, we got the little guy. Now these are all the same lures. Starbreakers, Giant Starbreaker, Starbreaker XL, Starbreaker X, which is the top water, and the regular Starbreaker is actually the diving one. And this is a mini one. This one's got kind of like in the middle between the regular Starbreaker. So instead of having straight down or straight out, it's in the middle. So you can get this one to dive a little bit. I usually just swim it on the top. Originally came with 2 belly hooks. I just got a 3-0 in the front and a side wash in the back. I find that the side wash evens out the weight that you took off here, and you kind of get a nice action out of this. I love these modifications for these smaller lures. Great. Now, we got our poppers, which I'm sure everyone is aware of, and I did a video all about poppers and daytime plugs, so you ain't gonna go into them too much. Usually this is kind of a very common plug for first timers. This actually was the first plug I bought. My friend too started surf fishing again recently, about 4 years ago. First plug he bought. You also, if anybody follows Surfcaster's Journal, they'll say it on that. And I don't know why. I think it's just people see the action. They assume that it'll catch the fish. Not realizing why you use things in the daytime, why you use things in the nighttime, vice versa, and so on. Now here, we got 2 other metal lips. 2 different styles. I would say this would be the Atom 40. Now if you do a little research on what they are, it's just a style of metal lip. And this is a big giant pikey. Alright? Now what makes these plugs different, one's got a big wide lip, one doesn't. This one I could actually swim on top or the bottom. Whether I retrieve a little faster to get it subsurface, which is a great lure to have because now I could fish the top, but let's say I'm fishing waves and it's getting thrown around, I could dig it in a little bit more and swim subsurface and avoid that. Pikeys. These are very different than other metal lips. They have weighting up in the front, in the chin, to give it this action where it's kind of like, it's like wobbles like this with its head down the water. Give a nice V-wake in the back. You could swim it and get it under subsurface too, but this looks really good just wobbling right at the top. It'll just give it a nice little right at the top of the water because the chin weighting will keep the head down. Great lures, heavy lure, so you do need a rod that will be able to throw something like this, okay? Everybody knows, this is also a plug people love. Everybody knows SP Minnow, okay? Everyone will tell you got to change the hardware because they bend out. I got a 3.0 Mustad hook. and a 5.0 inline VMC in the back. And that's just pretty much it, just like that. You know, I don't really throw them that much, but I know they're good, they're effective, and for a swimming plug, they get out there. Here's a swimming plug that is very hard to cast. It's an old school little Rebel, but it has like barely any weight to it. If there's a windy day, this thing is flying right back at you. So the SP Minnows are very nice in that sense. Here's another type of swimming plug. These are the Oceanborn, designed by Sebile. It has a metal lip. Now this will give a tight wiggle. You reel it, it'll dive. Let go, it'll float up pretty quick. So you can kind of give it dive, dive, dive. It's one of the bigger, thicker, wider profile minnow style swimming plugs. Great casting. Haven't used it much, but I do like the design on the bottom, how the swivel comes out at an angle. I like that. Okay, now we have Spooks, Topwater Walk the Dog Oar. This is a dock, bone color. Okay, now when you do this is more of a daytime plug. Now it's kind of a walk the dog, so you're gonna have the rod, bang, 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 little twitch as you're reeling in the slack, and you're gonna go shh, shh, shh. This size will cover a large, wide amount of water. You know, you could really get this out there, sweep it over a large amount of water, and see if there's fish out there. You know, classic atom popper, straight style. Creek Chub makes these too. These were probably one of the first type of lures ever designed, you know, as far as popping style plugs, stuff like that. Here's a smaller type of metal lip. I love this guy. Kind of like a mini Adam 40. Got a thick, fat lip on it for a small plug. So when you got this in the surf, I mean, you could really feel it dig in, and it holds tight. And I love this plug because I can do both, swimming on top or swimming underneath, and it will dive nicely. This is a great plug, caught fish on it. I love this color. Another Vinny's Custom. But you could see how wide the plate is, wider than the body. I mean, this really, like, you know, you dig it in, you feel this thing thumping, you know? And it's so versatile. The way you could swim it on top or just a little faster retrieve will make it dive, you know? Another great thing to have, okay? Everybody knows about tins. I mean, they catch, they're great. I don't like to really use them that much. I wouldn't say I don't like to, I just don't use them that much. I find better options. If I'm going to use a tin, before that, I'm going to throw one of these. But the thing that the tin can do over this, that this can't, is distance. I mean, if you really need something to get out there and catch a fish, you know, tins are hard to beat, especially in the daytime. If they're blitzing, it's a great lure. We have also different styles of bucktails. Got the 1 ounce. These are the S&S. It's an Andrus jetty cast, jetty. What are they? Jetty throwers, jetty casters. The difference is the head. This has got more of a bullet style head compared to the Smiling Bill. Okay, the 1 ounce, and I'll throw a red trailer on the back at nighttime or a white one during the day. Okay. We also have. These are from Intent Tackle, and these are just Spro. You know, I'm pretty sure like the main things of these is they're used for fluking, but they'll tell you because the guide's on top, it's a jigging lure. But if you do have a trailer on it and you're fishing it straight retrieve, it does come in straight like this. It will not come in like that. I've tested before and I've seen. And, you know, the chartreuse color you're going to want to use in more of like a dirtier water. Track the color of the fish. That's the idea behind the chartreuse. And on the back, you could put a trailer or you could just put a gulp. You know, a plastic Got a lure stuck to me. You know, it's like a plastic shad, little like a worm, like with a swirl tail. You know, any of these rubbers, I have them soaking in the gulp. You just put it right on the back, and it's a great little lure. Other than bucktails, now bucktail, like, all right, let's not skip over a bucktail because I feel like a bucktail itself. I mean, if you give me one lure, tell me I can only fish with one thing for the rest of my life. At this point, I would say a 1 ounce bucktail. Why? Because I've just caught more fish on them than anything else. These bucktails catch fish. They just work amazing. The feathers breathe. You know what I like to do, the way I fish them, cast. Preferably, I like to fish these in deeper spots, so you could, and I'll fish them from the edge. Maybe throw them into a channel and fish it towards the inside of the channel, and you'll get a lot of stripers that are sweeping up and down the wall of that channel. So they'll hit it right before it gets to the wall. Plenty of hookups like that. And these S&S ones, the paint holds up great. They don't really chip as quick. They do eventually, but for some reason these hold up great and they keep their color, you know, much longer than I would say like an Andrews, you know. Other things that you could do with the bucktail. I mean, listen, if you're in shallower water, you just have to get it between the retrieve speed between not hitting the bottom and not skimming across the top. As long as you, even if you got a little faster retrieve, but it's underneath the water, it's going to be effective. Okay, you just have to adjust your retrieve speed, and you'll be able to do many different things with these bucktails. You know, it's a great lure to have, and they just work. You could do so many other little techniques with them. If you have a strong rip, you could just cast them and just let them float, bounce along the bottom. As long as you keep the line tight, it'll bounce, bounce, bounce. Then when it gets to a certain point, swing up, and then you can retrieve it in before it ends up sideways against the rocks. I mean, personally, I don't have that many spots that I could fish it like that, but I know people do. All right. Now, we have a daughter here. This is a tattoo tackle. Little guy. And you can see the front of this. It's got kind of like a zigzag indent. And the idea of this is it's got a sloped head, so the current's going to push on the top. This is going to kick the water in and out and cause it to do these little darting motions, okay? Now, this is a lure that you do need current for. You need a heavy pressure on this lure to make it work properly, for the action to really work. Like a heavy surf, where you got to out tow, you know, inflow, and then, you know, as the outflow goes, you can feel the pressure on the lure constantly. I mean, if you're in a back bay, there's much more effective things than these that I would use. But I know it's every striped bass fisherman has to have a daughter. Okay, they're going to be useful and they're going to be productive at certain points. Also, we got something along the same lines as the way I would fish a bucktail, but the advantage of these is the distance they get. So like I said, these are needle, well, not like I said about the tins. The reason why you would use a tin over a bucktail is the distance. Here's another option, okay? Needlefish. You could cast these things like a bullet, all right? They're going to sink, and then you're going to retrieve them in the water column depth that you want. And you do that by figuring out, you know, you go during the day, you put your lure in the water, you see how long it sinks, and then when you cast it out and it lands in the water, you got an idea. These are very different lures to fish than any other lure. There's no, you know, when you're reeling it in, there's no action you feel on it. There's no thump. It's very many people would look at this lure and say, how does it even catch anything? Like if you just reel it in, it just looks like a floating stick. But the idea is it's swinging in the current. And also as you're reeling, You want to give a little pop, give it a little action, make that tail swing, because as long as you got like a little, a little trailer on the back, little hackle feathers or a bucktail, and it's you want to cast it up current, and as you're reeling, pulling it in. I mean, think about how many fish you see just sitting in the current, you know. Great for when skinnier profiles are around, or just you need to reach distance. So, I mean, that's a good analysis of different types of plugs that are available and different reasons for them. Now, this is kind of like a combination. Uh, I guess, it's something type of custom. You don't really see things like this more, but it is a needlefish. It's got a rubber plastic tail, which give it a very nice action. This is a custom style plug. I haven't really got to use it that much yet, but I plan on it. I mean, the thing just looks like striper candy, looks beautiful. I can't imagine it wouldn't be effective, but it is very, I mean, I just love this thing. It looks beautiful. I just know once I get a good place to use these, I will be very effective with them and looking forward to it. Needlefish is probably one of the more recent lures that I have messed around with. And, I just need more time working with them, understanding them. I mean, when you're reeling them in, you barely, you just have to make sure you keep your line tight to the plug. You don't want to feel slack. You want to be able, if you reel a little bit, it's pulling that plug a little bit. All right. So I know how to fish them, just haven't fished them enough yet to really have enough experience to explain to you guys how to properly do it. Now, my rod setup, don't have it with me, but I use a Penn Z 706. Need to surf bailless. Great reel. I mean, it's $200. And I mean, if you plan on eventually going up to a Van Stol one day, which is, if you're going to be surf casting and you're going to be in the water, to get a VSX, it's like having, the Mercedes of lures. So a Penn Z706 is a cheap reel, that you could get $200. Very easy to fix at any tackle shop because the Penn parts are very simple to get. And if you can learn how to use that reel, it's a great introductory into a bailless setup at a great price. And the reel is amazing. I mean, I opened up my reel. I packed the insides with anti-corrosive grease, like marine grease that I guess you would use on, tugboats, things like that. Pack the inside. This way, if it does get dunked, it has all that protection on it. Before Van Stols came out, these were predominantly the main type of reel that people would fish at, would swim out to rocks or use in the water. And there's ways to protect it and modify it to be able to take on, more of the salt water, and you don't have to worry about as much. I mean, a great reel. I love it. And it's accounted for so many monster fish that, it's tried and true, And, that's pretty much it for today. Oh, before I go, here's one more with a rubber tail. Metal lip. Love this lure. This lure, I mean, Vinny Customs, his metal lips cast amazing. Metal lips have a bad rep for casting like shit, but I get these out really far, and this big fat lip just thumps, digs in, nice and tight. So right in the back. I mean, it's just beautiful lure to me. I mean, really nice. I know the company Back Bay makes these. I've been asked actually on the beach before if it was a Back Bay. So I think if you want to get them, you could go to Vinny's Customs or Back Bay and find something like this. I mean, like I said, I haven't caught anything on it yet. I haven't used it that much. But it's really been slow here. I mean, for me personally and who I fish with, it's been slow for the surf, for the Raritan Bay, for Staten Island so far this year. I mean, I've been fishing since September pretty hard, and not much to talk about, you know. I mean, I got my best fish back in September, and then it kind of was pretty slow after that. I see Jersey's going crazy, Long Island's going crazy. It seems like they went straight from Breezy right to Sandy Hook and skipped over the Raritan. And unless you got a boat, you're just not getting them. All right, so we're gonna check back in with you guys. I'm gonna try to get some fishing videos up for you soon. You know, it takes time to get these things, man. You know, I could go out all day and fish and not get anything, record the whole thing, but what am I gonna post that for? So sometimes, you know, it takes a while, but you know, stick with us. We're gonna be having a lot of cool things coming out soon. A lot of great information. I mean, like if you're just getting into surf fishing, man, and you want to know anything about New York, Manhattan, like specifically those places, Staten Island, Manhattan, anywhere along Staten Island coast, the ferry over to Manhattan, along the bottom, the Battery, up the East River, you can do plenty of fishing. I've hooked up with fish right off the Battery Park. The only thing is, you know, just be careful. There's sometimes vagrants over there, people sleeping there. You know, you want to be careful if you're there by yourself with expensive equipment, and also you got to fish with a long leader because you're gonna have to lift the fish out of the water about depending on the tide, it could be 3 to 6 feet. So long leader, you know, things like that. I prefer fishing Staten Island because I like to be able to be in the beach. Like I said, Staten Island has a lot of like shallow spots, so things like this that I can get to swim on top, I mean, they are so valuable to me for where I fish. You know, I haven't had the experience or the enjoyment of fishing, you know, deep, deep, you know, rips, you know, like the Cape Cod Canal, things like that. Somewhere I definitely plan on making a trip to. But in the meantime, we'll be here in the Raritan doing our thing. I'll catch you guys later. Shallon's Finest Fisherman. You know, like, subscribe. Maybe I get this channel going. I appreciate the guys who subscribed. You know, once I get this channel up and going and I could start actually doing like, exciting things, maybe do some giveaways, stuff like that. You know, I will remember the especially the first 100 people subscribed. You know, definitely. I appreciate that. You know, thank you guys. Have a great day. I hope your season was better than mine. God bless and good luck. Stay hooked up.